Good afternoon, Kendall Mariya. How are you today?
Good afternoon, Shawn. I'm doing fantastic.
Great,
Hey,
great,
Shawn. Doing great. How are
great.
you?
Oh, I'm awesome. Just I guess like I tell everybody, trying to figure out what I'm gonna be when I grow up. What I'm trying to be someone. No, life's great. I have no complaints. No complaints. Well, welcome to Lending with Purpose. This live stream podcast is all about empowering you with valuable information, resources, and engaging conversations with clients and friends like yourself that help you navigate the world of lending, but also not only lending to enhance your life. And so, real quick, I want to get started. What was this? Back in September, we were at I was attending a conference. September, it's the National Association of Minority Mortgage Bankers of America. I was hosted in Florida. I'd come down to support two very good friends of mine that were participating in the conference. And so at the end of at least I was there for one day. And at the end of the day, we were all deciding that, hey, we're going to go back to our rooms. We're going to change, we'll shower, change. Then we're going to meet back downstairs at the lobby and go about our night because the three of us that were there together hadn't really spent any time together. We had separately, but hadn't really spent any time together in quite a long time, right? It was like a reunion, three college buddies. And so I'm walking on the way to my room, and I see two of the guys that I was with, two guys. They're sitting down at this table with a young lady and a young man. And so they stopped me, and I'm like, man, I'm going up to my room. I'm gonna get dressed or whatever. So I walk over and I introduce myself real quick, and then I go upstairs and I shower and I change, and I come back downstairs, and on the table is this cheese plate or a plate of cheese, I guess you call it. Um, and so, me, I'm trying to lighten the load a little bit because, we're strangers. The two of the people I didn't know, I'd never met them before that day. My other buddies hadn't met them either because I thought like they knew the people that were sitting there, but again, it was just perfectly, perfect strangers. And so I started to try to use a little bit of humor, and I'm cracking jokes like this: who orders a plate of cheese, and is that called a what is that called a cha-cha board or like a I forgot what I said, but I knew the word charcuterie and I knew exactly what it was, but never really seen it presented that way, like just on a plate, because I always see it done differently. And so uh just throwing jabs. And so what proceeded to happen later is just this amazing conversation around the fact that I should like a cheese tray because number one, it's good. Number two, you can make it yourself and you can, involve your friends and largely your family and being a part of that. And so I'm like, okay, tell me more because that's really important to me, right? And so the next thing I know, jabs continue to get thrown about this cheese tray, which I'm ending up looking like a hater anyway. But it was great. We had a great conversation, and so, ladies and gentlemen, I walked away with two great friends, and these great friends are on this call right now. Kendall Lanier and Mariya Shudra, and so ever since then, and we'll talk more about this later on in the episode. We created this competition in which we judge ourselves. We were doing it monthly. We took a little break, but we're gonna get back to it because I have my competitive spirit, and I know the other two of them do as well. But we started to do virtual charcuterie competitions, and so we'll get into that later on. But I just wanted to make sure that I told that story and tell you how I was connected with Mariya Shudra and Kendall Lanier. They're both in the uh, help in the mortgage industry. I'll let them tell you exactly what they do. They work for Factual Data, but let's start with Mariya. Mariya, tell us who you are, what you do, and then Kendall, you'll do the same. Tell us who you are, what you do.
Hey,
Absolutely.
sounds great, Shawn. And I would like everybody to know that towards the end of the night, you wound up licking the honey off that charcuterie board and saying how great it was. So kudos to you for being open to new experiences. This is a new experience for me as well. So thank you. Ever since we got to know each other and built this amazing friendship, this is my first LinkedIn Live. This is my first podcast. So thank you to being, so open to meeting new people and trying new food. We wouldn't be here otherwise. But for an introduction, hi, everybody. My name is Mariya Shudra. Like Shawn has mentioned, I'm a key account executive here at Factual Data, and I work with the lenders to support their communities, to put it simply. Kendall, you want to say hi?
Oh, that was short and sweet. I like that. And Shawn, you did say it was called the Cha-Cha board, and I can remember chuckling, and because I'd never heard of a charcuterie. And true story, I was on the phone with my mother last night because I did make my own charcuterie board, and her first question was like, "How do you even spell charcuterie?" And so, needless to say, I knew the answer to that question because of our time together and our weekly or monthly contests. And so, I'm glad we connected that night. I think there's from a networking standpoint, there's no better industry for that. And I think that as we network, connect, everybody gets better as a result of it. I am the director of key accounts here at Factual Data. I've been here for goodness 8 years, but I've been in the industry for about 22-ish, so for quite some time. And so that's my short and sweet version. I'm happy to be here today, and thanks for having us.
Thank you. This is awesome. So let's get to the business part. Then we're gonna have fun at the end talking about these charcuterie boards and such.
Absolutely.
But just wanted everybody to know that our relationship stems from this, and we're going to be helping each other and helping a lot of people in the future through our relationship. And so, your company, Factual Data, and your experiences in consumer credit reports and verification services. Is that about right? Is that right?
Yep, that is correct. And so, just our experience within the lending community or the lending industry really led to the career here at Factual Data. But in short, yes, we help lenders, help customers advance home ownership within the industry.
Got you. And so, how do the credit reports and verification services, impact the process of home ownership?
Maria, did you want to take that one?
Sure, I'd love to. So a lot of people know credit reports are crucial, right? It could stand in between you owning a home or potentially not. So it's, I say the industry goes full circle, and this is definitely a part that you can't skip over, even if you wanted to. So to partner together with a company that could help you through that, I think is more crucial than ever in 2023. A lot of people are focused on efficiencies. We're known for our technology, so we are subject matter experts for a lot of LOSs and POSs, and we know how the systems work. So once we get to know a lender, a bank, credit union, everything in between, we can be an advisor, right? And we could say, hey, this is how you could be efficient. This is how you can automate. This is how you could utilize all different kinds of technology to make your life easier. And I always quote how we did things back in the day, right? Because 15 years ago, I was on the floor, like a lot of my colleagues, right? And everything was manual. And you had to order a credit report, pay for it, right? And then see what you're working with. Today, we could utilize technology and save time and money and efforts, and do things quicker, and also help people get into homes quicker by verifying certain things quicker for them and getting things moving faster. So without getting into the weeds, that's pretty much the generic version. Kendall, is there anything in particular you wanted to add to that?
No, I think the first step in the home ownership journey is pulling a credit report. And oftentimes that credit report can be a hindrance or it can help the process. And all too often, the first conversation about credit or that when they apply for a home loan, that's the first conversation of people that look like us have about credit. And more often than not, or more often than it should, in my opinion, that tends to be, I won't say a negative conversation, but you don't leave that conversation with the warm and fuzzies. And so, Maria, everything that you mentioned about how we help lenders with efficiencies and all that good stuff, but at the end of the day, it's that very first interaction is what we're trying to impact.
So do you have a thank you for that. That's good. That's good. Um I want to get into like maybe an example or a situation where a consumer credit report or like some sort of a verification service. So like what's we know what a credit report is, right?
Mhm.
So let me step back. What could we possibly verify through your services? What type of verifications will we be doing?
What's interesting about that, Sean, is that we pull the credit report, and there's a number of things that happen behind the scenes while you're waiting for that report to come back.
Mhm.
We're verifying your address through USPS. We're making sure that the person that you're speaking with aren't on any industry watch list, or make sure you're not one of the guys that you probably shouldn't be doing a loan for. And so, while the credit report being the final product that you're looking at, just the integrity of the data and making sure that you are who you say you are is one of the things that happens in that short amount of time. And I'd like to make a point, like when we're when you're signing into your fantasy football app, there's a level of verification that's involved. When you're signing into Amazon, there's a level of verification involved. But more often than not, when you're applying for a mortgage loan, you don't have that level of validation or verification, and so that's what happens. Sometimes it generally about 3 to 5% of the time when a lender would have to repull the credit report because they transposed a social, or someone was applying late at night and got their social security number mixed up. So those are all things that the factual data of the world do behind the scenes, that kind of help throughout the process.
Got it, got it. Well, what about like uh employment verifications and such? Is that also a part of what you do? Because yeah, let me ask you that. Number one, is that a part of something that you do as employment verifications as well?
Employment verifications, not so much. And
Okay.
through r- our partnerships in the industry, and having conversation with them, we can actually put you in contact or with a partner that does handle the employment verification piece. But from the credit standpoint, we're not in that employment verification space. Wish we
Gotcha.
were, but we're not.
I see. I see. I see. Because I was going to ask that because in some situations, it gets expensive though. It gets very expensive doing that. Like,
Yes.
there's a uh the work number, right? For
Yes.
some companies, they participate and they put all their employee data in this portal, and then sometimes you can actually go there and verify the employees their tenure. You can verify their salary and things of that nature. And I was wondering if those were some of the sort of verifications that you offer as well. And
Yes.
so, oh, go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yep, you're exact. It's one of the two, I'd say most expensive. One of the two things that really drive the cost of loans is that employment verification piece. And so, from a technology standpoint, it makes it easier because it's less documentation that borrowers have to provide, and it makes getting into that home a whole lot easier when you can go online and look up employment and everything that you would have asked the your customer or borrower for, you're able to get with a couple clicks.
So I was going to ask another question. So either one of you can chime in on this, right? So I was having this conversation with someone the other day, and we were talking about like the craziest thing that we've ever seen when we pulled a credit report, right? And so the next question I was going to ask is like an example or a situation where like a consumer credit report or service helped improve the home ownership process for a client or customer, right? So early in my career, like first like 6 months of my career, uh, I really never really spent any time looking at credit reports, like not ever. And so I pulled someone's credit report, and there was this big alert on there, and it said something about it said deceased. And I was like, whoa. Like, and I'm looking at her and I'm like, are you sure this is your social security number? Let's take a look at my screen. Like, is this your information? Is this accurate? She's like, yeah, it's me. And I was like, well, I don't know how to tell you this, but your credit report says that you are deceased.
So
And
you're
and I can
you're
clearly
talking.
I can clearly see that you're right here, right now. And we're having a conversation about your home ownership journey, right? Your dreams about that. So come to find out, what happened is her father passed away a few months before this, and she was handling his affairs. And I think she was like the executor or something like that of the estate, and just closing out a lot of his stuff. And so the information got misreported. And so instead of her father, you know, instead of the information going directly on her father's side, it went to her. And so I was trying to remember how we remedied the situation. She did end up getting a house, and I've helped her purchase 2 or 3 houses since. Awesome young lady, but like, how and when does that happen? Do you know now, like, how you would remedy a situation like that? Because I really can't remember what we did besides write letters of explanation, provide death certificates and stuff like that. And she had to prove that she was alive. And so, like, what happens in that situation? Something like that.
Mariya, do you mind if I take this one?
Please go ahead. We're both nodding. We've
Okay.
seen examples just like these, Shawn.
So, Kendall, you take this one, and then Mariya, I want to hear an example from you as well.
Sounds
And
good.
so that deceased indicator is added on to there. And so when if an executor of an estate, if they've ever co-signed on any loans together or authorized users even, so what the credit bureaus do, we know that that information is reporting on both borrower and co-borrower, or applicant and co-applicant and or authorized user. So when that deceased, when that notification that this person is deceased, um, that travels along with it travels to any account associated with that person. So if you happen to be on that account, then it's going to be placed on your credit as well. Now, the process of correcting it, I say arduous. It's still a manual one. You literally have to go into the Social Security office and get an affidavit to show that you're not deceased. And from that point, you send it to 2 of the 3 bureaus. You can fax it or email it over to them. But the other bureau, you physically have to mail that affidavit in, and that's how you get it removed.
Wow, thanks for
Mariya?
that. So you're gonna go to Social Security Administration. That's
Yep.
ultimately, and then
Yes.
we'll fax that information or mail it in to the 2 of the 3 bureaus, or actually all 3 of the bureaus.
Yes.
Got it.
That
Got
is
it.
correct.
All right, Mariya, I want to hear your story. Like, tell me a crazy, funny story, or it doesn't even have to be funny, but just tell me a story.
I put me on the spot for funny. I don't know if a lot of people will call me
No,
funny. Just
yeah,
kidding. Just
yeah, they're not on our charcuterie competition, so
all right.
all funny.
So I could think of a lot of different examples when clearing up a balance, right? With the bureaus, for example, was life changing for a home buyer, right? That could make the difference between getting a home and not, and doing that quickly and resolving that as soon as possible can be life changing. I know because I moved to a new state and I needed to put my daughter in a home, right? And I want my lender to do whatever they can as quick as possible to resolve any inconsistencies in a credit report, right? But I also wanted to mention something really cool. So we have a tool that's available that will actually pull up a credit score, and it is a way to let the lenders know that if the consumer can pay down a certain amount on certain balances, that could actually bring their score up. And the score, it's a simulator, right? So if somebody doesn't quite qualify for a loan, the simulator could potentially help if that consumer can pay down some balances or take certain items off their credit report. I've seen numerous situations where a lender can make it happen, right? for consumers. So they walk in the door, they're really not sure what they're working with, and the lender becomes an advisor about credit with this tool. And it's very hands-on. You see it live. It's very cool. We actually provide training on how to best utilize it as well. And I've seen some great success stories off of that.
That's awesome. So I walk in with a certain credit score, maybe 20 more points will help me either number one, qualify for a mortgage, or number two, qualify for a better rate, right? Because many times our rates are based on the credit score, right? And so maybe I have a credit card that I could pay, 20 more % of the balance off, right? Or get my balances down, and that will help me get those points that I'm looking for. You're saying that you all have a simulator that I can actually plug that information in that will make those recommendations on what needs to be done. Is that right?
Absolutely. So we utilize a company, right, that offers this. But when you partner with factual data, it's an option that you have as well. And I've heard raving reviews from one particular bank. They said this is everything, especially in these times, right, where not everybody has perfect credit, and it's very, very hard to have perfect credit these days. Absolutely. So this really educates everybody, right, the consumer, the lender, and put some control into it. So you could say, hey, do you have $1,000 to pay down? Pay down $20 on this card, pay down $50 on this card, et cetera, et cetera. And I've just seen great success stories. I think at the end of the day, people who are passionate in this industry, those are the kind of examples we live for at work, right? Making those deals come through and getting somebody into that home.
Got it. No, thanks for that. I was going to actually ask about affordability, right? And I think that's a tool that we also need to talk about in regards to affordability, because, the higher your credit scores, oftentimes we know the better the rates. The down payment options tend to get better too as well, with better credit scores. And like you mentioned, knowing that not everyone has perfect credit, but if we use these tools to help people, it goes a long ways in helping with the affordability piece. A couple more questions on this, and then we're going to talk about cha-cha, charcuterie, ladies and gentlemen. So let's talk about like accuracy, security, protection. Like, so, how do you ensure that the data collected and used, through your services or by these services is accurate, secure, and protected? Because that's always something too as well. We always, not always, but many times our clients are like, I don't know if I want you to pull my credit, and it's my social security number, so forth and so on. And what are you going to do with my credit report and such? Like, let's talk about that. Let's talk about accuracy, security, and protection. Either one of you can take this one.
I'm going to be quiet and let Mariya take it. I want to, but
no, you do. We'll take
okay.
turns.
So,
it's your turn. I don't want
I'm gonna go get pop some popcorn real quick and just sit back and listen.
Yeah. So, data integrity, Shawn, is one of the things that, as an industry, for us, is at the forefront of our minds with every interaction with a consumer. And things with something as simple as shredding documentation when you're working with a borrower, making sure that companies that we work with have a certain type of shredder, the diamond crosscut shredders, and those are the nuances that are important to factual data that may very well be the difference between that consumer's information being safe and secure and not so much. And so from a data security and data integrity standpoint, data security, we make sure that it checks all the boxes, or the lenders that we work with check all the boxes when getting set up to order credit reports through us. The FCRA has specific requirements around data security. From a data integrity standpoint, that we spoke about this earlier, just the 9 for 9, making sure that all those that social that you entered is in fact this borrower's, by pinging, pulling information in from several sources. And so, information security is something that I'd say it's everybody I say lack of a better way to put this, cybersecurity and making sure that our customers and their borrowers' information stays safe is one of the things that's important in factual data. So making sure that shredders are in place, it's something as simple as locking your computer when you walk away. Those are the things that we're doing, in addition to some other stuff, but those are the most important things. That's a good question, by the way. Make me sweat.
You don't have to sweat. You got a million people listening to this. Don't
Yeah,
worry about it. Um, or watching you, I should say.
yeah,
I'm just kidding. One day we're gonna manifest that, right? Um,
yeah.
so Mariya, you want to take that too? You want to talk about the security, or did Kendall knock that one out of the park? I threw
Sure.
this.
No, he always knocks every topic out of the park. So I
I try.
just wanted to add, we've been around for a long time, right? We're one of the oldest and the most trusted. So we've been around since 1948. Our name is Factual Data. We take data very seriously. It's all that we do, right? So it's on the forefront, and security is obviously, just like Kendall mentioned, very, very important. So we're not new to this topic and industry, and we have a lot of people making sure that everything's in place and stays where it should.
Gotcha. And I do actually have two more comments around this. Like, is it okay to get your credit pulled? Like, when I get that objection from people, I know how to handle it, but like you all do this a lot. Like, what do what would be the way to overcome that to help people feel at ease about getting their credit pulled? Like, is it okay, or like how would we talk to our consumer about that? Number one, and then number two, as a consumer, should you feel comfortable with a lender pulling your credit?
I could take that one, Kendall, if you like.
Absolutely.
Great, thanks. So I think we have options these days, right? I think a lot of consumers are unsure, right? It's a hard pull credit report. Everybody kind of knows it dings your credit a little bit. It can. One solution that we have these days in this day of age, we've evolved in the mortgage industry tremendously. An option lenders have as one of the products and programs is soft pull credit reports. So it's not going to be a hard inquiry on a credit report, right? So let's say somebody walks in the door, they're a first time home buyer, or they're just not comfortable with the process, right? I don't think there's any subject matter experts that are consumers that are walking in the door asking for a loan and completely know what's going to happen front to back, right? There's a lot of education involved in this process. And one of the ways you could combat that is offer soft pull credit reports. That will not be a hard inquiry. Now, you can't make a credit decision. You would eventually need to pull a hard credit report. But if you are looking to look at scores and see what's going on and coach somebody through the process, I think a soft pull credit report is a great option that we didn't have in the past.
Thank you for that. What were you going to say, Kendall?
Just gonna say with the soft pull is one of the ways that we're getting consumers to, I won't say buy into, but to be a part of that process at least. Take a look at your credit, offer them guidance based on a soft pull of your credit report. But we know that in what we do, we require that hard pull. So for those consumers or those companies that haven't set up, that don't have that soft pull process in place, it's very similar to auto shopping. When you go and apply for an auto loan, any inquiries that you have within X amount of time, typically 30 days, it only counts as one inquiry. And so that's one of the ways that you help overcome that buyer's that hesitation. Just let them know that if nothing else, we know where you stand, and we can give you guidance and offer you a roadmap to overcome that. And so between those two, it's the soft pull credit reports and being able to pull that credit, just knowing that regardless of whether it's one time or 20 times, then it's only going to count as one inquiry over a certain period of time.
Thank you. That's what I talk to them about a lot. It's okay as long as you do it within a certain period of time. Because it's not necessarily one for one. It's grouped by industry. So, like you mentioned, automobile. I'm not telling people to do this during your home ownership process. Please don't. But you go to the dealership this weekend, and they pull your credit 3 times. Uh, Today, you speak with 3 lenders. So you've had your credit pulled, 6 times in a short period of time, right? But it's only going to count as 2 credit inquiries. One for the automobile piece next week, one today for the mortgage piece. And so those are things that we talked about. But I'm definitely noticing that our industry is adopting the soft pulls, just because it also makes sense. And then from a cost perspective, where I'm going now with this. Consumers a lot of times, and even the lenders, like, we have to be very conscious, especially these days, not even these days, but all the time, on how we invest and spend our money, right? Because healthy companies surviving is just very important for companies to be healthy. And so what I've noticed and what we've noticed, and hopefully we can have a quick conversation around this, because I don't profess to know everything about it. All I know is the buzz in our industry is that credit reports are more expensive now. So where before, so they're like double. Like and Kendall, thank you for reaching out to me a couple months back, because I honestly didn't know. I didn't know. I want to say I knew, and I'm sort of embarrassed that I didn't. But you called up and you said that this is a real thing. Because I didn't really take it that seriously. I'd heard something about the cost of credit reports will be astronomically increasing. And you called me, and I'll be honest with you, I panicked when you first started talking, and then you calmed me down and you disarmed me and you helped me understand that it's not as drastic as I may have thought it would be, but it is significant for us. And so, in some cases, I've seen them double or triple depending upon the companies that you use. Can you speak to that, like kind of what happened? Also, to let the consumer understand that we're just passing these costs along. Like, I don't own factual data. Like, it's not my credit report. We're pulling it through a service, and they're charging me this through a third party, and I'm passing it along to them. But I think it's important because they're used to seeing a credit report cost one thing, a year ago, and then now they're coming back to refinance or whatever it may be, buy a new home, friends or family buying a house, and they're questioning fees on there. And it's like, well, last year the credit reports cost, call it $30. Now the credit reports, are costing 60, 75, some cases $100. And so, can we speak to that?
Sure can, and that's one thing. I swear, if I had a nickel for every conversation that I've had on that, I'd be a rich man right now, because that's definitely the buzz within the industry. And so, very similar to you passing on that expense, Shawn. The data furnishers, or where we get that data from, comes at a cost. And so this year, FICO increased their cost or pricing structure to be more consistent with what's in line with other industries that receive that FICO score. And so, just the quick explanation of FICO. FICO operates independently of what's on a credit report. So you have the bureau data, such as TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. And FICO is uses that algorithm to generate a score. Now, each one of those data points have a given cost. To you or TransUnion will be, we'll just call it $7 or $10 or whatever their price is. Equifax will have their price, and Experian will have their price. Um, this year, FICO wanted to make the adjustment to their pricing models to be more in line with what other industries were. Now, as a result of that, there was a significant increase in what FICO was charging for that. And so in turn, it's that trickle down effect. Of course, our pricing increases. Shawn's price, we pass it on to Shawn, and ultimately, the consumer sees the price, sees the increase. And so when you look at the cost of a credit report, what this year we'll say $30 to your point. Well, now it's either $60 or $90. That's the number one driving factor of that increase. Is of course, again, our data furnishers, Experian, TU, Equifax, they still had their increases, but the most significant was FICO and what they charged to get that credit score on that credit report.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that. And yeah, so everyone that's listening, We're not overcharging. We're just passing. We're just passing the cost along as well, and even lenders, we're having to rethink, the way we do business
Yes.
and have strategies around it. And so these soft pools are helping as well because they're not as expensive. But however, like Mariya mentioned earlier, it's you can't really make a credit decision based on it as well. But just consumers, just bear with us, just understand that these costs are going up. It's crazy. We talk about inflation a lot, and those types of things are trickling into our business quite a bit. And so I thought I was finished before we get into the cha-cha, but I have one more thing I want to ask about, and then I'll leave it alone. I was telling a story a few weeks ago about one of my friends. He sent me a screenshot, Mariya and Kendall, and the screenshot uh, was it was like 10 missed calls. Y'all know where I'm going with this. Yeah, a screenshot on his cell phone of 10 missed calls within a 30-minute period.
Yep.
Right. And the message went something like this, bro, and it was like BR with a whole bunch of O's and exclamation points, right? And he's like, this is insane. I'm paraphrasing, but this is insane. I've had 10 missed calls in the last 30 minutes from lenders since you pulled my credit. And these things are called trigger leads. Can Mariya or Kendall, you bring us up on that so that we know what to expect? Obviously, not to be scared about it, but to understand what to expect. And we can, I can tell my strategies later about it. And then, we've been talking about opt-out pre-screen. I'm not quite sure if that works against you or for you or whatnot, but I tell my people about the opt-out pre-screen portion. But like, just I'm only expecting you to tell us what a trigger lead is, if you can help.
Sure.
Mariya, it's all you.
It's all me. Thanks.
I've been talking a lot.
Yeah. Hey, it's
Talk
all
too
good.
much.
It's all good
You know, I'm a
stuff. It's all
talker.
good stuff. So listen, Shawn, I completely understand your friend because I applied for a home loan as well. And I got those phone calls as well. A lot of them are robotic. And if you do get a person, my experience is they want a lot of personal information. And I'm in the business, right? And I didn't really connect with what was going on because they call your cell phone, right? It's during your day, either you're with your family or you're in the middle of your work day. It definitely throws you off guard, right? And I had a person asking me if this was my second home investment property. And I said, who is this? They mentioned, oh, we could get you a better rate and et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't appreciate it either. So I could definitely understand what a trigger lead is. And first and foremost, we do not sell trigger leads. I've gotten that question a lot. And a lot of lenders say, hey, get me off that list. First and foremost, it does not come from us. We would not promote that. But also, Shawn, I wanted to give you kudos because this is a perfect segue from soft pull credit reports, right? Because it's only at a hard pull credit report is when trigger leads are sold. So one of the strategies that a lot of lenders are learning about is you can do a soft pull credit report, then utilize the opt-out feature that you mentioned on the website. It does take 5 business days or so to kick in. So let's say you have a borrower coming in and you pull a hard pull credit report. They are going to get phone calls from other institutions trying to offer them their business, right? So if that consumer walks in your door and you offer them a soft pull, you could build that report. They could go and opt out on that website to opt out for, I think it's up to 5 years to not get those advertisements or phone calls and et cetera. Now, I will say it's not 100% foolproof, right? So I did hear of examples where people do go on the opt-out website and opt out from those phone calls and those trigger leads. However, somehow still come through. But with the soft pull credit report, the lenders can build on that relationship right before somebody else down the street is calling them. And I don't know of any consumer that appreciates, 5 to 10 phone calls a day that interrupts their process, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
I've heard as many as 20, and trigger leads have been a thorn in the side of the industry for years. So much so that in 2019 there was legislation introduced in the Congress to prohibit or prevent the sale of trigger leads. And right around February of 2019, that's when the whole pandemic thing started. And of course, that took precedence, and so that bill never went anywhere. It died in the House. 10 years ago, the trigger leads have been around for years. The what changed is the technology behind them. And what happens, 10, 20, I've heard of upwards of 50 phone calls in a 5-hour period because that information is sold by the bureau. So to Maria's point, factual data doesn't, we don't sell trigger leads. We never have and we never will. But the TransUnions, Experians, Equifaxes of the world, they do sell trigger leads. And by definition, what a trigger, I'm going to give you the long version, Shawn.
No, it's
Um,
fine. Please. It's
w-
okay.
when you apply for a mortgage, there's a certain permissible purpose code that's sent to the bureaus, which is required by the FCRA. And what that permissible purpose code is like, why are you accessing this borrower's credit? That lets the bureaus know, well, this is for a mortgage application. Then this, and it's, we, that's in line with what the expectation, so that if it's ever audited, then we know the why behind the inquiry. So trigger leads, what they do is they know that because there's X amount of permissible purpose codes or mortgage application codes that's being pinged at the bureau level, the bureau's decided to monetize that. So, okay, well, we'll give you all the customers that have all the consumers or borrowers that have a 720 score or higher within X amount of time. And now it's automated. So 10 phone calls in 30 minutes, it's about right. It happens real time. And Maria and just mentioned soft pull. That's one of the ways that people are mitigating that. Again, with the other being optoutprescreen.net or optoutprescreen.com. Now, being that your risk and credit score, because your credit score is a measure of risk, that and your credit score and the what's on your payment history and all that stuff are directly proportional. So once you visit that optoutprescreen.com, just through personal experience, I have seen a slight bump, whether 3 to 5 points in the credit score, because again, you're removing that level of risk or that layer of risk so that you're now not receiving any offers, and that is one of the things that's calculated into the score. How, why, I don't know, but personally, I did it, my wife did it, both my kids did it, and each time you saw that 3 to 5 point increase.
Oh wow, that's gold. Yeah, we need to repurpose that whole segment of the I mean, this has been great anyway. I think for those that are listening and you're watching the replay, really take notes on this. Don't be afraid of credit. It's not a bad thing. It's actually helpful when used properly. And another thing on these trigger leads, the bureaus don't sell your social security numbers and such. Like they don't do that. It's just your profile, like Kendall
Yep.
mentioned, and your ability to be able to purchase and that you actually are looking. So the second part of that, our text thread with my buddy is he's sending me more screenshots. So it happened within the hour. So it was a 12 o'clock hour. And then I think it was like 2 o'clock. And then I saw him a couple weeks ago and he said they were still calling him. And, I had a veteran I was speaking with and he said he contacted his two favorite banks and they didn't have a product for him. He qualified sterling credit, but he said that he stopped and halted the process because he couldn't take the calls, and that made me sad.
Yep.
Made me sad for our industry because he's trying to build wealth for his family, and so just those trigger leads is something that discourages him from moving forward. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to show you this board. This is where all the action happens. This is where the action happens right here. on this board right here.
People do not know how serious we get with this competition. So we have a member of our group that bought a book on how to compile a charcuterie board. I have bought so many unnecessary accessories for mine. I've looked it up on YouTube. And Shawn, I will tell you, you get the medal for the most growth, because at the beginning you didn't even know what this board was, and the last time we did a competition you could sell that thing for hundreds of dollars. I would hire you for a birthday party, let me tell you.
Hey, dude, my first board was horrible. It was.
Remember his board, Mariya? It had pickles and like cornflakes on it.
And sushi, it had sushi on it.
My first board was, I just slapped some stuff on the we didn't have a board at home, and so my wife had gotten one for some like 10-year anniversary at her job like some years ago, right? And she's like, well, I'm like, I gotta get it because I thought we had one. And she's like, I didn't have time to go to the store and buy one or anything, and I wanted to buy something decent, and Amazon, I couldn't get it here in time, and so she went and found it, and it was like this small, and I couldn't fit everything on there that I wanted. And meanwhile, Mariya's got like rose petals on hers. Kendall, you remember?
Yeah.
She got,
Go big or go home.
she was a pro, and this was during the hurricane I think you were having, the recent hurricane in Florida, and her charcuterie board was amazing. And so Kendall and I, we stepped our game up, and so last time I pat myself, I don't know if I can if I can do that again, but last time I actually put some time into it. I actually made a whole diagram and everything what I was gonna put on there. And Kendall, I think you're making a board, or you made one. Is that right?
I made one. It's finished out of black walnut and food safe epoxy. So it's I would have brought it, but I didn't want to ruin it. Mariya's seen it, but yeah, I did. I made one.
Very impressive. Very impressive. Now we're all gonna want one. Just fair warning.
Well, we were just gonna contact Kendall. Hey, brother, can you make me one of those charcuterie? I don't know what it's called thingies. Those. So Mariya, before we leave, and I'll ask you the last few questions. Like, why was it important? Like, I was joking you about the cheese tray, and kind of sorry, not sorry. I'm actually glad I did, because we got into this amazing conversation. But like you broke it down to me, like you just totally like crushed my humor and turned it into something that melted me, because you started to talk about family and all that. And these are things, because this aligns for everybody that's listening with home ownership, or having a home, right? Or a place that, even if you're renting, a place to share memories and such. And so this was something that was personal to you and near and dear to you. And so let's talk about that real quick, about what you were telling me, how you were telling me the story about your daughter being involved with it and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So Shawn kind of made a joke, what is this? Why would you order this? I would never order this. It came out just a bunch of cheese and maybe some nuts, right? Honey all around it. And I looked at Shawn and I said, Shawn, do you have children? And he told me about his kids, and I said, are they picky eaters maybe? Do they like to sit at the dinner table? And he told me a little bit about that. And I said, just imagine, Shawn, you put a bunch of stuff on a board, you put it in the middle of a counter, right? Let's say your kitchen counter, your island, and you let your kids surround it, and then be a part of that experience and pick what they like to eat. I said, Shawn, do you think that they'll eat more and enjoy that experience? And Shawn just looked at me with these eyes and he's like, you just blown it out of the water. Are you kidding me? I would have never taken it this far. So I think it's all about family, right? And Shawn, like you said, home ownership is family, and it's growing together. And it's providing that space of comfort and inclusion. And I think all of us who have children and family members, we just want to be closer to them somehow. And with this tech forward world, a lot of times our kids are busy on their iPads, or, texting their friends. It's hard for them to put their phones down and to create something for them or with them, because I have included my 6-year-old daughter with choosing what goes on the board and how it lays on the board, just gives us that extra one-on-one time, right? And that has so much value. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
it has been amazing. So anyone like, we're all goal setting and such nowadays. And, this is the season for that. And talking about like, wins. I don't really talk too much about the losses. I talk about lessons from last year, but wins. And I promise you, one of the wins that I always talk about is like meeting you all and starting to do this charcuterie, because it's been really fun. It's helped with the mental health too, like, just going through it, and it's actually brought our family together. Like, I have relatives that are texting me YouTube videos, they're sending me recipes. My kids are asking what are we going to buy for the charcuterie. My wife actually wants to go to the grocery store with me now. We tend to go separate because I'm not the best shopper at the grocery store. So she like actually enjoys it when it's time for us to do it. So thank you both for that. Like that's been amazing. And yeah, it's been great. Thanks, Mariya, for you know, turning it around on me instead of calling me a jerk that day.
Never, never. I really do look forward to it. And I know Kendall and I joke at work also who's going to win the next one. But you brought so much value, to us as well. And like I said, this is my first time being on LinkedIn Live in a podcast. And if it wasn't for that cheese, we would have never been there. So thank you to you
Kind of
guys for
cheesy,
being
kind
open.
of kind of cheesy, Mariya.
It's
God, cheesy.
cheesy.
Play on words, but yeah, true story. I actually put a caster so that you can turn the board around. So when everybody's crowding around it, then no one has to reach across the board. They can just rotate it around to get what they want. And that, to your point, Mariya, about bringing the family together, and that's the challenge that we had, is that everyone was there, but someone wanted crackers, someone wanted cheese, someone wanted the little pieces of salami. Well, now you can just rotate the tray and get it instead of reaching across everyone.
Who would have thunk it?
Yeah,
Who would have thunk it?
who would
And
have
so,
thought?
so mortgage industry, watch out. We're taking over through one bite of cheese at a time. Uh, we got, and so like before we wrap up, how can we connect with you? So two things. How can we help you? Is there anything that we can do as a community to help you? And then how should we connect?
Ladies first, Mariya.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm big on LinkedIn. So my name has a Y in it. So please find me on there. I love to connect and I like to keep in touch, right? I think everybody has input from their own perspective. And if I am at a conference, I always mention it on LinkedIn. So how you could help me is if you also ever see me in person or you're going to a specific conference, I would love to network and connect. Shawn, I met you that way, and my life has forever changed. And I would absolutely love for that trend to continue into 2023.
Sounds
Yep.
good. Thank you.
Same here. I'm on the LinkedIn and all the socials, but if you're attending either one of our networking events, I'd like to say I've never met a stranger. And so I may very well reach out to schedule some time, but you've seen us only just on LinkedIn, just say hi, speak, and open that conversation because who knows? It could be go from ordering a charcuterie board and talking cha-cha boards the 1 minute to having a conversation about credit the next. And so it's those small things and networking and community. Those are the things that reaching out or having a dialogue. I almost didn't go down there that day, and that was the best decision that I made. Thank you, Mariya, for the invite. But it's community, and so that's what I'm big into networking because it helps us all get a little better. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about.
Great. And so for all my lenders out there that are connected with me, reach out to Kendall and Mariya. They work together as a team. I know they're going to give you fantastic support. Very proactive in giving information, providing info and details on to how to help us serve homeowners better. So just connect with them. You probably have a relationship. I'm sure you do. You have to have one in order to do business. But just reach out and get to know them. Get to know them. So listen, Doesn't matter to me who goes first. But both of you get one person, one question. Who would it be and what would you ask? All right, you get one person and one question. Who would it be? What would you ask? After you tell this, we'll wrap it up.
All right, ladies first, right, Kendall?
Of course.
Ladies first.
So I wouldn't be true to my roots if I didn't mention this today. So it was someone's birthday yesterday, and that someone happens to lead up Ukraine right now, and his name is Volodymyr Zelensky. He's the president. You might have heard about him once or twice in the last year. He was voted Person of the Year by Time Magazine. And I will speak for a lot of the Ukrainians, and we were very proud about that for sure. And if I could ask him a question, he's a very busy man these days. But if I had the opportunity to ask him something, I would ask him what motivates him every day to do what he does. He's a pretty impressive guy, and I think a lot of people would agree with that, what he's accomplished. And he comes from the entertainment industry. He actually used to be an actor and comedian, and now he is this leader who's known worldwide. So I'd love to ask him what motivates him every day.
And me, in short, I would have to say my one question, I think back to my great grandparents who were, I'd say they owned their property at a time when owning property for a person that looked like me didn't happen. It just wasn't possible. And so my question to them would be, how did you do it? Like how did you make that decision, and what led into that decision? Because it's not easy, back in those times, because not only do you have to own property, but you have to protect it. You have to do the things that it takes and to make sure that it's passed on to the next generation. And so how did you do it? What brought you to that decision? And how did you hold on to it for so long? No, that would be my question.
That's amazing. Both of you. That's awesome. Did you have trouble? It didn't sound like you had any trouble figuring that one out, right? Those questions.
Yeah, that was on the spot. So I didn't give it any thought. So that's one thing that I've always wanted to know. It's not nearly as cool as Mariya's, but it is something that I've always wanted to know.
Yeah,
it touched your roots, man. It's very cool.
Yeah, so thank you both. Like I say every week, it'd be such a shame for me to know people like Mariya and Kendall and not share them with the network and with the world. And so thank you both for joining us today. If there's anything whatsoever I can do for anyone out there, please don't hesitate to reach out. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Everybody try to remain as safe and as healthy as you possibly can. And we will be back here next week at 2 p.m. ish. I'll say 2 p.m. We'll be back at 2 p.m. And I just asked Kendall and Mariya, just give me one more minute after I close out. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Great.
Thanks
for having us, Shawn.
It was a pleasure.